Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. We'll get started in just a few minutes. We're just going to let everybody get let in from the Zoom. Hang tight. We have a great panel for y'all today. It's all centered around AI, as the title suggests. Any questions at any point throughout the webinar, please feel free to direct them to the chat. We actually love audience feedback as well to really guide these webinars as well. So any questions to the panelists, I'll be fielding them, and then we'll have Q&A at the end. So thank you, everybody. We'll get started in just a few minutes. So just giving time for people to get let in and get settled.
There's already a question for Matthew.
I'll be representing Grey Parrot, AI company out of London.
Yes, I reached for our expertise across the pond for this one, as I know we are all the Solid Waste Association of North America, but we can learn a lot from everyone across the pond. As I like to say, EPR and all these different policies are about 7 years in the future from where we're at in the US. Like EPR is coming into full effect in the UK, I believe, between this year and next year. It's a phased rollout. So the technology there is much more weathered and tried and true than we have over here, where we're very much in an earlier state. So definitely lean on Matthew's expertise for what to expect with government regulations coming out as well. But awesome. So, I think people are going to trickle in as we go, and there's the recording as well. So, no reason to hold up any longer. But thank you, everybody, for attending today. This is the Solid Waste Association of North America's webinar on AI in solid waste and the opportunities that lie there. The style today, we're going to do a hybrid. It's going to be panel focused, but I just wanted the panelists to introduce themselves first and then also give a brief background on what their companies do with a short presentation. Today, as I just alluded to, we have Matthew Stevenson with Grey Parrot, and we have John Stark with My Matter. Before we get rocking and rolling, I just want to give, a couple announcements. The new webinar schedule will be coming out soon. We've had times to plan everything. Also, SOAR is up and coming on April 15th to the 18th in Phoenix, Arizona. So if you are missing the nice weather, it is a great time in Arizona. So might find a good excuse to head out over there and enjoy some nice sun and learn a lot about what is going on in solid waste, as SOAR is our really great educational conference around everything solid waste, and you'll make some really great connections there as well. So if you can justify it with your company's budget or your personal, feel free to head on out. It's a great time. And with that, Andre, is there anything else you'd like me to cover on the HQ side before we're ready to rock and roll?
No, I think you've covered everything. Just to remind you, for attendees, if you have any questions, please put it into the chat or raise your hand. And don't forget to unmute your computers.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, everybody. And, with that, Matthew, would you like to kick us off first? Share your screen, give us that quick high level on what Grey Parrot's all about.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to get a chance to talk to you all. Obviously, as you alluded to, my name's Matthew. I'm the business development manager here at Grey Parrot. My job's all around implementing AI. So this topic is something I'm very passionate about, as it quite literally gets me up every morning. Let me just share my screen and give you a bit of an overview. Is that visible to everybody?
Yes, loud and clear.
Fantastic. So Grey Parrot, we're based out of London. And essentially, we're utilizing AI and computer vision to firstly detect the different types of material using light reflection, color, and shape. And then importantly, to extrapolate everything out to mass. So we provide a running mass balance of anything that comes under the sensor. And we've really been set up to tackle a few major challenges within the sector. And the first one really is all about visibility. Really, what we're trying to do is move towards the similar types of manufacturing procedures you would see in other industries, where we have true understanding of what's coming in the door, and then the purity in what's being sold at the back end, as well as any losses coming through the system. And this real-time data really allows companies to not only optimize the system more efficiently, but also run it day to day with a higher yield. So what we typically do is we install our units across the facility, normally at an in-feed, on the product lines and on the residue, in order to provide this actionable feedback and really drive change within the system itself. So how we do that is we provide the data live into dashboards, into the stuff you can just see here, and essentially it becomes a diagnostic tool, allowing you to understand which is the most highly valuable materials being lost and what order of priority should we do for, say, whether it be an upgrade or additional labor within the picking lines. Obviously, there's a myriad of different ways that we can optimize based on this data. But the key thing really is to take the manual sampling out of the process, so we can see that flow of material without having people day to day actually in contact with the waste for health and safety reasons. And there's obviously a huge move both in Europe and across the world in order to remove people from these processes, to make them more efficient and lean, but also to make them safer. So how that data essentially is utilized in plant is it typically starts with an investigation phase. So we're looking at the composition by mass of the material coming through in a particular location. We would then set KPIs or thresholds based on that to identify any anomalous result. Then we fire alert as an initial point of call in order to action that then and there within the facility. And then we would then provide information in order to dig into what's happened, correct the changes, set the improved KPIs, and create that iterative improvement cycle. But the key way that we operate is really by balancing two forces that we deal with day to day within the facility, which is maximizing the throughput and maximizing the quality. So as we run the plants harder, we naturally overflood certain lines. That means that there's lower efficiency within some of the sorting, and you end up with more material lost to residue. So there is always this sweet spot based on the composition coming in and the throughput, in order for us to maximize the profitability of the system, both in terms of final yield and purity. But the really exciting piece comes that this data is then utilized across the full ecosystem. So Grey Parrot sits as a central brain within many different applications within the industry. So we work directly with plant builders in order to provide this data, but then action it within dynamic control. We link in with different types of sorting equipment, such as optical sorters and robotics, as well as informing packaging manufacturers around best practices to provide truly recyclable material, linking the data into different software providers, working with regulators to ensure that the policy is going in the direction that is suitable, as well as further down the value chain with reprocessors and different types of recycling systems. And then what we're going to at the moment is utilizing data for dynamic control. So there's really two types of ways to do separation. Either you utilize coordination, such as like a robot or an optical, but you can also separate based on composition. So a key application for this is looking at residue line material. At a certain point, you have too much high commodities within that line, and you may choose to rerun. So that is an element of just swapping conveyor directions potentially. And it's these types of decisions that the data allows in real time to optimize the facility. So thanks, that's just a very quick overview. Looking forward to the panel discussion.
Awesome. Well, that was perfect, Matthew. Thank you so much. And with that, I already see you have a couple of questions come in. I'll put those top of the pile when we go into the Q&A. So with that, John, are you ready to go?
Yeah,
I'll share my screen for you so you can just focus on the thing.
great.
Just making sure, is this coming back loud and clear for everybody?
Yep.
Perfect. John, take it away.
Yeah, so happy to be here. I'm John Stark, the founder and CEO of My Matter. And so we really focus on sorting waste at the source of disposal. Click, go to the next one, Mikey. So what we've created is an automatic sorting waste container for public spaces. And if we do our job right, then it makes Matthew's job a lot easier at the MRFs. So what we really focus in on is like, how do we optimize where, putting waste where it's supposed to go at the source of disposal. We're a highly customizable solution where we can have different sizes, colors, messaging, and our AI model in terms of how do you want your waste to be sorted. It's a binary system right now. And if you go to the next slide, uh, it's a very basic concept where you put an object into the device, it will identify it using the vision technology, and then it will be able to just sort it into a binary system for right now. From there, we've got fullness detection sensors to help inform collection crews, and then also an embedded display screen for real-time feedback. What we're actually working on right now as well, and I'm think this is the first time I'm publicly announcing this, is that we're going to be bringing dual inputs, because what we've recognized is that people really want to make sure that the masses are discarding appropriately. And what we've recognized is that we can't just have a solution that just focuses on effective disposal. Where you focus on effective disposal by making sure waste goes where it is, but on a larger scale, we're also trying to have a product that's more engaging and educational. So with a dual input, we're going to be able to determine how people are making decisions on where they think waste should go away, and they can get the real-time feedback if they made the right choice. And if it's great, if they made the wrong choice, we will still sort the waste to where it's supposed to go. That is going to be best for the customer. Next slide. Yeah. So we also have a dashboard as well. Dashboards are all the neat things with waste data. And what we're really focusing on is we're saying, hey, how does a single unit, what is the impact of a single unit? And then what is the impact of all of your units together? So we really break it down into two different areas where we're looking at both the metrics regarding to what are we diverting from the landfill, what is the sustainability side data, and then what's the operational data of the waste container, because an overflowing waste container is just going to give everybody a headache and drive up costs. And we want to be able to properly make sure that with any new technology and with technology in general, something can go wrong. And so how do we provide that solution that can easily fit to any environment that goes wrong? If somebody throws in, the 10-pound block into the 5-pound bag, how does our system take care of that? And how can we, make sure that it's just not going to be down? Because any downtime with a waste container is just going to pile up and make things a lot more challenging. So our AI is essentially just, as I said, vision based, and it's taking a picture of everything that we collect, and then from there we can have a better understanding of what's being discarded, when, where, why, and how. The only thing we don't know is exactly who is discarding it, but I think we're okay with not having trash cans take pictures of people throwing away waste in public. So yeah, with that, that's kind of an overview of what we do.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing. So Ev, one of our other panelists, wasn't able to make it today. He got called in for a surprise visit at a airport that has very high security, so those passes are few and far between. So he passed on his information. I'm going to give his presentation right now, just on a brief overview in AI in general across the waste space and a little bit of what we do over at Scrap. And then from there, we will jump right into the Q&A. So here we go. There. Awesome. Sorry, it's hard being a host and a presenter at the same time, so I'm getting used to it slowly. But this is Scrap, and we talked a lot about the role of AI and waste because we are in a very weird position where we're a data company, so AI only helps enhance the data. We don't solely rely on it, where every good AI company will tell you they also are a data company as well, as that's what really builds a really core competent model. I'm sure, Matthew, you're nodding your head. I know your team has a lot of data behind you, making your algorithms top notch on what they are. And John, we were talking about it the other day. So a little bit about how we're using AI, a little bit different than just image recognition as well. But we use AI a lot for populating environmental data on waste and also organizing it and streamlining that process. Finding the commonalities between different data sources and have them all speak the same language. Reading in waste reports as well. There's thousands and thousands of waste reports out there. You can really leverage AI, and these are things that are off the shelf that you can train a model, whether it be ChatGPT or Gemini, and use these models to really help streamline your own processes at your place of work. Obviously, check with your management team and your legal team to make sure the data that you're using and loading into these models that are off the shelf is like able to be shared publicly, or what sensitivities there are around this data before you start plugging in. So the benefits that we're seeing when it comes to this is a lot smarter reporting, in-depth waste management analysis. We just saw that with our two panelists as well, and greater efficiencies in waste tracking. You're spending less time doing crazy amounts of waste audits, and you can get to the work that's a lot more important and really allocate your budget accordingly. Additionally, on this, we looked at other companies as well, and I talked about robots and these different things. Recycle does different huge data sets, training AI different image types is along different images of different waste types, object level detection, and robotic arms to remove waste based on that said image detection. Which translates into cleaner waste streams, greater accuracy in waste sorting, and then also reduced manual labor times. We talked to Reconomy, and they are a digital waste hauling platform. They're using AI, uh, not yet, but surprisingly, where they're looking to use it is more on their customer success and along analytics and recommendations as well. So it's the AI isn't all, I think we immediately jump to think it's all robots, where it doesn't have to be. You can use AI and leverage it in a lot of different ways, from simple just like data manipulation and cleaning up spreadsheets. If you have a coworker who might always forget a comma on a spreadsheet versus you might input data in a different way, you can use AI to actually clean up that data and synthesize it in a very streamlined fashion. And the benefits for them is, better customer support, more accurate data forecasting, and use case of unique data points where they can actually, readily advise these maybe complex customer inquiries and really troubleshoot that efficiently. AI and waste. So this is actually a marketing campaign that we did, and I apologize if you hear any dogs in the background. They just love the mailman. But you can use AI and help in your marketing efforts. Our marketer over at Scrap decided to use a bunch of famous sports icons in different settings all around involving waste. You might recognize, Serena Williams, Muhammad Ali, Messi. My personal favorite being from New England, Tom Brady, whether you love him or hate him. And you can really use AI to, you know, create certain people's likeness in certain environments to reach a whole new different demographic. So it's really the cool thing about AI and these AI tools that are out there is you can utilize them and leverage them in a situation that might be entirely unique to yourself. And also, you might be seeing more things like this where QR codes are pretty rapidly evolving in the way that you would use them, and that they call it a phygital experience, so a cross between physical and digital, where you'll start to see that that line blur between your in your shopping experience, where you're actually scanning the products on the shelf to understand more about them, where typically you would just have to take it for face value with that branding. So the attention span and the way we interact with items in a daily on our shopping are rapidly changing due to artificial intelligence. And the reason that this is important is you can design a lot more for circularity and put a lot more information on the package around an item's circularity with just a QR code. And it's the same way we got our menus during COVID. You can use that to educate people on how to recycle your product effectively. And so what I'd say is, can AI solve the waste crisis? No. But can it help? Absolutely. It's not the silver bullet that's going to end everything, but AI is something that is going to dramatically increase our capacity and ability to solve these really complex waste issues that we're seeing. And that's, on that note, I'm really excited to, get to the Q&A portion with these two panelists, because AI alone can't do this. Good process will, but I think these two companies that we have here today will really highlight the strengths AI can have in your solid waste stack, I would like to call it. And with that, I think we're ready to just jump into Q&A. So I'm gonna put our eager customer, Arlene Star, our eager audience member, Arlene Stark's question. So how do you contact packagers? I'm gonna pose that question. I believe that was posed to you, Matthew, first. But John, if you have something to add to that, please feel free.
Okay, I'll jump in then. Great Parrot are in a really interesting place within the market because we see a lot of what is actually happening to the material flowing through the facilities. And as Mikey alluded to at the start of the call, EPR is more progressed across within the European market, and that has really driven a lot of desire from the packaging producers in order to really understand what's happening within their material. So a lot of the contacts we have within packages is actually comes direct to us because of that reason.
Brilliant.
I would just add in terms of for packages on the My Matters side, we are still a fairly early stage startup, but what we have been doing is we have talked to companies like Sunoco to better understand that where are their packages being disposed of and how are they being disposed of, and getting a better idea of just gathering that data. So we're very much in the early stages of just trying to understand what do the packagers really want to see that's going to be most beneficial to them.
Absolutely. And I can say, on the scrap side of things, on behalf of Ev, with contacting packagers and contacting brands and the parties that have agency over these items we're seeing in our material recovery facilities as well as in landfills, et cetera, is that packaging is an asset in their mind. It has branding collateral, it has the ability to protect their products, get them to the shelf, and do all these different things that are very valuable. It's really the after effect that they've never really thought about up until now. And there is definitely a huge push, especially since around 2018, a national sword for these companies to take an agency over their own waste. So, we at Scrap, we have a brand verification program where any brand can just submit their packaging information and we'll help synthesize it, get it in a standard format, and then also educate people at the point of disposal about what they can do with the item. And brands seem to take up to that. In the first 4 months of the program, we had 34 brands signed up. So there's enough of an interest in this, especially on the brand side and the packager side, for their package to be seen as sustainable and not just sustainable, but also effective as well. And that's been a
Mm.
big push for a lot of carton manufacturers and plastic manufacturers is where plastics have come under a lot of scrutiny. Where it makes up for that is in environmental sustainability in terms of CO2 footprint, as well as product shelf life, where you can increase the shelf life of a product in some cases like Tetra Pak cartons by like 9 to 12 months increase. So by decreasing food waste, you're having a slight increase in packaging waste if it's in an area that can't be processed. So I would say contacting packagers, sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's a bit longer of a chain of custody, but they're certainly interested to say the least. Awesome. So my first question of the day is so when did your company start, and for how big are your teams, and how long have you really been at this? And John, we'll go with you first on this one.
Great. So I like to say that My Matter officially started in April 2021, so almost 3 years now. I've been doing it a little bit longer, but that's when the company has really been around. As of right now, I'm still the only full-time employee, but we're in the process of growing the team because we've recently gotten a lot of demand. Um, so I think, right now it's just, I've got a couple of part-time people helping me out, but I'm the only full-time.
Absolutely. Matthew?
Great Parrot has been around about 4 years now. We have been with them about 2.5, and we've got 45 employees internally. And then in addition to that, we also work with different partners across the planet. So external teams probably double that with partners such as Bolograph within the Netherlands, and then we also work with companies like Viterra in Italy, as well as Van Dyke in the US. But our internal team is 45.
Absolutely. And what I love to point out is, so on the scrap side, we're about a team of 4 full-time and about a total team of 9 when you include part-time. And, obviously partners, people we refer to, consultants, that kind of thing, maybe a team of 15. And we've been able to leverage AI pretty effectively. We've got the one man sole proprietor, John, to my right. And then, Matthew is with a much bigger team, and then us kind of in the middle. AI is very approachable to everybody. There's different ways you can improve it. Could I ever do a perf line with a team my size and the resolution that Gray Parrot does? Probably not, but there's definitely applications that you can, see are valuable to use a municipality or as a smaller company. You don't need these mega million budgets to necessarily make it happen.
Mm.
Um, and I noticed we just had an audience question come in. So this is from David Ramirez. Are there image processing AIs that can look at a pile of material and give me a visual composition as it comes out of the route truck, or can give bale quality metrics? Matthew, I see you nodding along, so I think you might have a hint of one. But
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's the cool thing that we look at with in Grey Parrot, but in slightly different situations. So the key to this type of technology is we're using RGB cameras. So you do have to be able to see the material that you're recognizing. So if we have large amounts of waste coming off the back of a truck, obviously things are buried, so we can't get an accurate overview of what's actually happening, which is why Grey Parrot work live on the in the facility. So we look at what's been collected for the infeed of the facility itself. Now, in terms of giving bail certification, at the moment, what we do is we look at the back end on the product line continuously for that. But this is certainly a hot topic, both within the US and over here in Europe, and is a key thing that we're looking at. We're doing with the likes of Holograph in this new partnership.
hmm, absolutely, John. Anything on David's question or?
With regards to David's question, uh, I could just say that in terms of an AI being able to determine, what comes out, the answer is yes, because when we see people take the armful of whatever and throw it into the My Matter container, then we have to be able to identify what's going in there. And our AI is really, it's all based on confidence. How confident are we that we're seeing what we're seeing? And if we're not confident on something, we say, okay, that's miscellaneous and it's flagged, and we have a better idea of how to go back and review to constantly improve. Um, we do not have bail quality metrics because we don't have bail sizes. So I would just add that little comment.
Hmm. And then as far as, I think with the state of AI technology right now, I think going in with like a pile of material that's miscellaneous, I don't know many AIs unless they have like, the ability to see through multiple materials, can really quantify that at the current moment. But if you're looking for being able to understand the contents of a curbside bin as it's being picked up, I know there's a company called Prairie Robotics that puts a camera. There's a few, I think there's like Waste Vision AI, Prairie Robotics. They do detection at the bin pickup and actually have a database where they store along the pickup, understanding what was put into the truck when to do targeted contamination education. So there are companies that are out there. It just kind of has to be handled at one specific point. It's very hard once you're handed like a giant pile of miscellaneous items of being able to really work through and do what you need to do with it as any company. Um, and then we have another question from Penny. How effective did your model need to be to get signups, and did these start as beta agreements? That's part one of the question. John, I'll let you go first, as I feel like you got a good answer for this one.
I wanted Matthew to go first on this one, but no. So I'm happy to say that when we were doing our initial pilots with Coca-Cola Consolidated at Clemson University, University of South Carolina, Volvo, and BMW, a lot of them were just saying, "Hey, show us what you have already," because I would say that our AI model, I like to say, is 100% accurate on my waste stream, but in reality, it's not. We've averaged around 85 to 94% with various pilots at Virginia Tech and break rooms, hallways, just where you typically see waste containers laying around. So people were interested at least to see, hey, what does this company have that can, create that cleaner waste stream and provide us that feedback? So there wasn't exactly a threshold that they were looking for. Um, I'm looking at the second half of this question. So yeah, when it came to just our pilot programs, it was really just saying that, hey, here's the device, we want to get this into your facility and then test it for a variety of months. We've been operating at like BMW and Volvo and a few other places for about 6 months now, because we went to markets like about halfway through last year.
Perfect. Matthew, I pass it to you.
Okay, great. Yeah, certainly what's been really great about working in this industry in particular is the collaborative approach that the industry takes to this type of development. And certainly in an initial stages, we did have those type of arrangements with different companies who were really keen to invest their own work into making sure this technology was suitable for them. But obviously that was before my time within Grey Parrot, so I don't have loads of details on that. But certainly the key to this is to hit a valuable use case within the data stream. So it's difficult to say exactly how accurate you need an AI model to become in order to do that. And it does depend on the use case. But as an example, Grey Parrot started with a small number of material types in which that we became accurate looking at that. And then that opened some use cases and we've grown from there up to now where we look at 89 different classes. So it's all about building first the relationship with the industry itself so you can really understand what this AI model needs to be built to do. And then really continuing growing the AI model so you can see more and more and more data sets get bigger and obviously the accuracy increases over time. And we work hand in hand with customers like that in order to develop this technology.
Absolutely. And I'd like to really highlight that collaborative or iterative approach, right? Like, so,
Yeah.
I think nobody's a stranger to the waste industry being very analog. I remember growing up, everybody's like, you don't want to go into solid waste, like you'll be a trash man. And then meanwhile, the trash truck driver was making more than the school superintendent, where we're at a point in the industry where it's very much changing over very quickly, where
Mhm.
now a lot of these advanced analytics and technology is really coming to the industry outside of trucking and that kind of thing. Um, and with that, what we're going against right now is I know companies that maybe at best have an Excel spreadsheet for their workplace recycling. They don't digitize that much past that. Where I think if you're trying to get, a secure letter of intent, you just need to prove that you're better and more efficient than the current solution they have. And then from there, it's always going to get better. Like every company's worked with a number of startups to know that there's going to be hiccups. There's going to be things that are going to go wrong. I say that as I've had projects that go wrong, and then you have to correct them and fix them and get them up and running. They're looking for something that has the potential to grow in not necessarily, they know they're not buying the end all be all, but rather they want a collaborative and iterative partnership to really grow and scale that solution to something that's viable. We can't boil the ocean in one day. Like, it's going to take everybody to really figure it out. And I think that's how you really need to go in with the POCs and letters of intent. And obviously, every company is going to be different with how they negotiate. We've done POCs where they've been paid. We've done POCs where they've been unpaid and testing out the software. It really just depends on each unique use case. And Penny, I don't know what lens you're coming from in terms of this, but I think that kind of succinctly answers the question. It really does depend on the scale of the project and then also their willingness to collaborate. I think those are the two biggest factors. And then another question. Um, so how did your organization's AI journey start? Like what was really that nexus moment where you're like, artificial intelligence is going to be the way? Because I think it was easy for, the last year with ChatGPT and then Bard coming out. Everybody's like, oh my God, there's this new technology that's out. Both of you were working with AI well before it was like a household name. So I kind of ask, where did that journey start? And I'll leave it whoever wants to jump in first
Oh,
can do that.
Matthew, you please go first.
Okay. Yeah, certainly. I mean, the journey of Great Parrot's adoption of AI really begins at its conception. Prior to opening Great Parrot, the founders utilized AI with computer vision within other industries. So that specific company was Blippler, and they essentially look at different landmarks and different brands within the real world with a mobile phone. So it was really the intention was to utilize that technology that they built before, but to have a positive impact with something that was, having a detrimental impact to the planet. And obviously, the waste crisis is certainly that. So it was really born by the desire to do something impactful with the data that they were creating.
Absolutely.
I think my matters journey of AI really is more or less my journey that's been with AI. So It really started with dogs and cats, but a little bit before that was I was working at a facility that is step one of making jet engine parts, and we're dealing with very fragile, small pieces of ceramic material. And I was looking at how do you use vision technology for better quality control. Well, I paired that with my just, I guess, love of being efficient on things. I'm the type of person where, I like to drink soda, but I do not throw my soda cans into the waste bin or even the recycling bin, because I take them myself and I melt them into aluminum ingots. Why? I don't know. It's fun. So with that, those two combinations, those two things that have been in my life, it's a matter of how do we start figuring out, and this is where the My Matter comes, the name of the company comes from, a sense of ownership over the materials that you have. And that's really where it started, at the source of disposal. So when we were looking at the AI, early on, I'm just saying, okay, how do we tell between trash and recycling? Well, there's great, information out there about, well, how do you tell the difference between dogs and cats? And sometimes I couldn't tell based on the pictures. And it all just came back to, you need a lot of pictures. You need to be very clear on your labeling, and you have to just, keep training the AI. And it's like educating a small child, or sometimes it's educating myself, just what is recyclable. And it depends on the location. So as we went from dogs and cats, we were just using image classification, looking at just the picture as a whole, but we've gone down into more object detection and segmentation, where we're really fine tuning within this picture. There could be multiple things that are glass or metal or plastic or whatever, the hodgepodge of waste. And from there, we're able to discern that this is what's in the picture as a whole. I will also say that it's sometimes a challenge when you are going through pictures, and if there's the phrase of, poor data in, bad data out. If you don't have good data coming into your AI model, you will not have a good AI model. And sometimes I can't even tell what the pictures are that we took. Is something too close to the camera? Is it blurry? Was it moving? So we have to really sift through that data to really understand, what are we looking at here? So that's kind of the journey behind our AI, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah, I can, as somebody who is not AI focused, I can even tell what John is saying is very, very true in terms of, garbage data in, garbage data out. It takes a lot of data to make an AI algorithm. Like there's a reason why OpenAI raised billions, almost trillions of dollars to do what it's doing. It takes a lot of data to form a concrete algorithm. And us at Scrap, like we're looking to do the AI thing, but more or less as a streamline of processes, we're still going to rely on the data. But with the amount of data we need to even make an assumption as to what somebody's recycling program is going to look like, you still need the baseline data. And then, if anything, the algorithms will tend to help with the expertise around how to structure the data or read in that data and say, here's a suggestion, but you're still going to need to check it because in the solid waste industry, a lot of things are irregular. You might get a water bottle that's not crushed coming in 1 second, and the next time it comes in completely squished with the cap back on, cap off. We don't live in an industry of consistency. So having that level of data, it's why Gray Parrot does so well and My Matter is growing so fast, is that we're an industry that's craving consistency where we just don't have that right now. Um,
I want to add to that real quick and say, while it sounds like a daunting task, and at least for me it was, because I was by myself, but it's a lot easy, especially now. It's a lot easier now with the all the AI talked about, to start figuring out even how to go about building, the model. Because while you need a lot of data to be very clear and accurate, increase that confidence, you need a lot more data to go from, I would probably say like a 60% accuracy to a 90% accuracy than you get from a 0% accuracy to a 50% accuracy. I mean, you can start off very easily and just, pass the sniff test. But then when you really get down into, okay, how accurate are we? How are we talking about? Yeah, cap on, cap off. What's the brand type? That's where you really need a lot of data. So I want to add that.
Absolutely. And then, Matthew, there's another question coming in for you. Um, so European nations seem more advanced in regulating waste management. Do you believe current regulations in the US can help AI and increase the effectiveness of waste management?
Yeah, absolutely. Regulation has a huge part to play within this process. And I think the core underlying reason for the regulation is to pull the market forces into making the right thing the profitable thing. And that's what really has allowed Europe to extend its recycling regime in such a large way. It's because those macroeconomics of the whole process is forced into doing the right thing. So it's really, really critical. And certainly AI has a huge part to play within that because it's not just about regulation, it's about the right regulation. And how do we really go into making those decisions? Because the view of how this waste is flowing through the ecosystem is difficult for us to view it when we're on the ground. And obviously, you have people making policy decisions for the waste industry, and they need that information to really enact that change. So that's really where I see AI not only being helped by the regulation, but also helping the regulation. Because small changes can make really big differences one way or the other.
Absolutely. And I think it plays really nicely into the US piece as well. I think, can't remember which state, so don't directly quote me on this, but one state actually went through the the like due diligence process for EPR without conducting a needs assessment, and that bill was instantly shot down and sent back into revision until a needs assessment was done. So these AI companies are giving that baseline needs assessment to enact very good policy where we're actually seeing a lot of companies in the US, even without policy pressure, making these investments so they have the data, they have the expertise, and they have the tools on hand to adapt at any point in time. So they're ready from day one to of these new regulations to come into place. And the UK like also had similar problems to the US where the US was exporting waste. The UK also had a similar issue where they were exporting waste to non-OECD countries. So it's not as though the UK's been perfect and always been perfect. They had to work a lot to reach that point. So that's kind of
And we
why I
still
wanted
have a
to
lot to go.
exactly. Like I think UK has a 60% recycle rate on some materials. It's not 100
Mm,
yet, and they have amazing
no, it's not.
technology. It's gonna be a big climb, and that's why I was really excited to bring Matthew over, is he's kind of got that 7-year lens into the future as to what we'll be seeing.
Yes, certainly. As I say, it has a massive part to play, and really, I think as an industry, it's our role to educate the regulators in order for us to get regulation that really works for the finances, as I mentioned, but also for the consumer base that we serve.
Absolutely. And the accessibility of AI is also helping a lot in the UK, and I think everywhere as well. Just anybody can interface and use it. Um, I was going to say, Steve had a question. Are there examples of risk mechanisms that AI assists in the solid waste industry in addition to compliance? Uh, this is a good one. I was going to say I'm happy to field this one. Matthew and John, chime in if you have any knowledge of this as well. I do know that um, AI is being used a lot in insurance at the current moment. This is a little bit, I'm going to step outside of solid waste and bring it back in a second. But so insurance companies have been leveraging artificial intelligence a lot to actually help predict different health issues that their ratepayers might, be exposed to. They're also doing this in medical science as well because there's a lot of data, obviously in compliance with HIPAA, that they can use to, kind of predict what issues you may have and what you might need to be screened for. Now, bringing this further, you might have heard that some solid waste facilities are not being insured anymore because of the risk due to battery disposal and a lot of damage being done by smoldering and fires due to lithium ion batteries being put into the waste system. So, with artificial intelligence, if it's being able to detect if lithium ion batteries are being on the line and actually pick those off of the line ahead of time, you can, by a certain factor of safety, say that the facility is now much safer. And obviously, I might defer to Matthew a little bit on this one, where you're actually seeing very granularly what is on the line. You can accurately predict bale quality so that when they're selling that bale, they're not going to have to worry about any recalls or impurities and these different kinds of things, or weird things like lithium ion batteries that cause facilities to go uninsured, having to deal with these issues as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You raised a very good point around insurance there. Certainly, there's a lot of work going on within Grey Parrot and other companies in order to identify these materials going in, and certainly that it has been discussions with the insurance companies in a similar way to the fire protection and suppression services are typically required, or at least within the markets that I serve, in order to get the insurance. We could potentially see the same things happening within AI and protection. The specific issue around that is actually seeing them on such a busy stream, and a lot of the fires happen within the tipping hole. So it could only ever be a factor reduction within for the safety, but certainly it's something that I know the insurance companies are looking at.
Absolutely. Yes, so risk factors in solid waste that AI is going to have its work cut out for it on that one because if you ask people in New Orleans what gets thrown away, especially on Mardi Gras, it's everything but the kitchen sink. So uh, definitely a
I
lot on that front.
I would just added that, and this is where, we're my matter, at least it's still a little bit early in this field, is just really understanding what are people throwing away. Going back to the Mardi Gras comment, it's like with waste containers able to understand what someone is throwing away in real time. If there is any sort of, let's say, illegal things that are being thrown away, we would be able to flag that and know that. Now, thankfully, we haven't had to deal with that issue just quite yet. We're still in fairly controlled environments with our disposals, but knowing the exact location of things being thrown away at what time as well would be able to provide a lot of unique information.
Absolutely. Um, so very well put, both of you, especially for a curveball question. So next one up. So Penny asks, so what are your customers' false positive tolerances? And then how do you handle mistakes? I'm happy to start with this one. Um, Customers are usually very patient in that regard as long as expectations are set very clearly. If you walk in saying, we're hunting werewolves, we got the silver bullet, it's going to drop in, it's going to work, it's going to be fine. Like, and then all of a sudden there's problems, the expectation wasn't set. But if you set the expectation of this is generative, this is working, it's an iterative process, that's where you'll start to see like the understanding of like, oh, we're not buying something that's perfect, we're buying something that's a work in progress, but a very much so a working work in progress. Um, and then as far as handling mistakes, it really comes down to customer success at that point. You can have the best AI in the world, but if you have terrible customer success, nobody's going to want to deal with you. Um, that's really where people skills come in. It's funny that people skills are still paramount in a world of artificial intelligence and computer skills. Like that's really where you have to strike the balance. And Matthew, I actually deferred the handling of the mistakes piece, not because I think Gray Parrot has a lot of mistakes, but you're on the BD side, so you're direct with the customer all the time. So
Mhm.
you definitely have your finger on the pulse in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely. And firstly, echo exactly what you said. It's all about working in collaboration with people and setting the correct expectations and being open and honest about the process that we're going into. We should have full visibility of the project that we're getting into on both sides. And that really does limit any potential fallout if there are mistakes that happen. But I think sorry to give a multi-pronged answer, but when we're discussing around tolerances and accuracy, how I see it, and I guess I would be from the BD side, is that it's all about providing value with the data. And that will range. It depends on the application, depends how much accuracy you require. We do a lot of applications in which we're looking at trend data. So we're using the Grey Parrot data as almost the standard of truth within the process. But we don't have any information about the weights coming down the line. So it's a potential that accuracy may be off. But what's important is whether different fractions are rising and lowering. So the hard accuracy is important for some applications, but we also work directly signing off different regulated material flows, such as food grade status, in which case we have to be really diligent in how we are presenting the accuracy of the model, and then also performing regular checks to ensure that that accuracy is maintained, not just on a monthly basis, but continually. So it really does matter what we're doing with the AI and what those tolerances are. But tolerances can always be built into what we're doing with the data. So a great thing that Great Parrot look at all the time is like, is it worth me buying this particular piece of equipment in order to do this piece of recovery? Well, if you know that your accuracy level is 95%, you just work out whether that buyback period would be okay, whether it's 5% under or 5% over what the data is reading. So as long as you understand the accuracy and the tolerances you're working with, typically you can still provide the value. And in that case, you still have something that can create an impact.
So well said. John, I know you're ready to pipe in. Go for it.
I don't know. There's been a lot of mistakes, so I don't know where to begin with the mistake side of things. But I think a great example is, well, what Mikey said is like, really you're talking to your customer and you are presenting some new technology, and having an understanding of what the expectation is going to be like is really a good way to first start off. Once again, we are doing controlled testing at BMW, and a great example was that, as I like to say, 100% accurate on my waste stream, but I don't drink Celsius cans. I don't have little Dixie cups. Well, hey, Celsius cans and Dixie cups were consumed at the BMW plant, and we weren't sorting them properly. It was just, on that threshold of just like, do we know what this is? And I said that I said to my contact there, it was a matter of just like, all right, we're going to gather the data. We're going to go take a bunch of pictures, and then we're going to just train a new model and then test it and verify it in the shop. And then from there, we can deploy an updated model that is more accurate with those items that we haven't seen. In our case, when it comes to, if something goes wrong, it's truly understanding, what is the risk. And what we offer our customers is the ability to say, hey, we say to them, do you want to have a pure recycling stream? Or are you okay with some contamination because you really want to just not lose valuable commodities to the landfill? And in some customers, they say, we just want pure recycling. We don't want to have any contamination in there. And some other customers, like the University of South Carolina, they're fine with some, because the next step of their process is a mini MRF on campus before it goes to a larger MRF. So it really is dependent on understanding the full process of that waste disposal to make sure that, can the next step handle it? Who's hauling it? So there's a big process that needs to be understood there.
And like, is our customers don't want to deal with trash. We're very unique in that all of us like to deal with solid waste, recycling, recyclables, and these commodities. So at the end of the day, you're really providing a service to them around handling their waste in a more effective, efficient, and also cost-effective, cost-saving manner. And it's really you got to be good with the brass tacks on that, and A, have an amazing customer success cadence, and then B, really always show off the value that you are delivering to these customers. And I think that's usually the best way that like we found at Scrap to like handle mistakes. My co-founder, who is going to be on the panel, currently is at an airport troubleshooting customer success where there were mistakes, not even on our end, but when you're trying to go airside in an airport in a very secure facility, you get that pass once every 3 weeks, and you got to make it work. So you just learn to kind of roll with it and really find out how to make the solution shine. And there's going to be things that will pop up that'll be out of scope of the initial contract, but if those things that are out of scope will dramatically impact the success, that's where you sit down and have a conversation, because everybody's got a surprise somewhere. Every customer has their snowflake that makes them unique. So it's really learning how to roll and understand that. And
Ultimately, we're here to solve problems. Okay, so we want to solve people's problems. So it's a matter of being able to just work with the customers to say, look, we want to solve your problems. We're listening to you. Let's figure this out together.
absolutely. Best way you can say it. And then we have a question from, sorry, there we go. Arlene. So can AI identify and have robotic picks of crushed recyclables? So I see Matthew, I see you nodding. So
Yeah,
yeah, go.
I'll field that one. There's actually two parts to that question, so I'll just field them independently. First off, around the recognition of crushed items. The amazing thing about AI and computer vision is that we can detect anything that is visibly distinct. So if a human being can tell the difference between two items, the AI can be trained in order to do that. So that allows us to pick out and sort any type of material that fits that description. Now, in terms of crushed material, as we were discussing earlier, it's about your data set. And it's about a large enough and accurate enough test data set in order for you to identify materials correctly. So crushed material, as you were discussing, obviously it could come in a myriad of different shapes and sizes. So it's all about that wide pool of data. And certainly, there's quite a few companies that are doing crushed bottle recovery with robotics, and it is very much certainly possible. The second part of that question is obviously about the robotic pick itself. And there's a lot of different types of robots with lots of different types of mechanisms in order to pick. And it's all about making sure that's properly scoped up front. Within my role, I don't get involved in robotics specifically. But what we do is lots of business case studies around robotics before they're installed. And it really is around making sure that you've got those two things correct. You've got an AI that can detect the items that you want to recover, and you've selected the right type of robot in order to pick them and recover them.
Yeah, it's really interesting when you talk about different robots. I studied environmental science all throughout like my high school. It was really my focus, and then I picked up engineering. So it was actually really interesting. Is like when I remember like Waste Expo, and you saw all the different picking technologies and the different like hands, let's call it. Not every hand is shaped or functions the same way, and these different hands specialize in different plastic shapes, packaging types. Like for example, flattened cardboard, you can actually use something that's pneumatic and has suction and will actually pick up. And the reason this was interesting to me is that when we discovered the theory of evolution through Charles Darwin's work on finches, the beak shape was different depending on what they ate. Robotics are the same way that the arm shape is different relative to what they're designed to pick up. So it's very rare you're going to get one robot. Like we're very far away from iRobot where you can like have one humanoid robot picking all different things. I think a lot of these robots specialize in picking those high value commodities, whether it's cans, plastic bottles, and cardboard, and then it's up to the human pickers to get the rest out of things that might be a bit more complex in nature. So definitely AI and robotics are absolutely there. It's just they're very specialized at the current moment. We don't have very many generalized robots that pick up like any and everything. If you put a propane tank on there, the robot's gonna freeze up and not know what to do.
especially if it's filled.
Mm. Absolutely. Plastic film is still the bane of a lot of things' existences because it gets stuck. But luckily, plastic film is now being separated out and actually can be recycled in some areas. Like I know the UK is doing a massive Flex Collect rollout right now with a lot of soft plastic collection, which Matthew, if you know anything more about that, please feel free to chime in. But
Yeah, absolutely. We're actually moving towards film being collected within the same bin as everything else in a couple of years or so. So there's a huge drive initially to collect from supermarkets and various other vendors, and then to eventually get it within the MRFs. And you are correct that it's a difficult material to separate. It separates very much like paper, and it's obviously got a low bulk density. So you need to pick an awful lot of it out of the stream. So yeah, it's a really, really interesting area because there's still a lot of room for innovation, different technologies to come into the fore and help with that process.
absolutely. I know it's a big push right now where, technologies are getting super, super advanced depending on where they are. Um, like I know if you go all the way out to New Zealand, like they still do everything manually and they source separate, but you go to countries, I believe it's Sweden, that you're given a properly colored trash bag relative to the waste that goes in it. And then you bag all the waste individually and you put all the different colors into the same bin and the hauler will come, haul, pick it up, bring it to the MRF, and the MRF will first separate all the bags by color into their own individual lines and then sort it that way. So we're like we talk about single stream recycling is like the big rage, but a lot of other countries do things by very different methods too, and there's AI solutions designed for that as well. But awesome. I think, we're pretty much right before time. So with any other final comments from the panelists, y'all have been fantastic. So no need if you got nothing to add, a thumbs up is fine. As we have no further questions from the audience, I appreciate the audience participation in this webinar as well.
I would just like to add that it's amazing that AI is this amazing tool that's coming out and it's definitely going to change our world, but it comes back to how do you use it? How do you implement it? You can design the best model in the world, but if you don't also have a cost-effective solution, or you don't have a solution that really ultimately solves the problem, then what's the point of the AI model? This is why I think it's, and this is just on my matter side, where we really want to focus on putting as many waste containers out there because we know people don't put waste where it's supposed to go. So how do we use the technology to really solve the problem rather than just talk about how great the technology is?
Hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like as I mentioned earlier, it's about the right thing becoming the profitable thing as well as having the solution out there within the field. And AI is a really powerful tool, and it's going to change a lot of things within the waste sector. But what we spoke about earlier around this still requiring people and this being a collaborative effort with a lot of different stakeholders is 100% true with the adoption of this type of technology. And I think there's a lot of interesting and exciting avenues we can go down. But it's all about, as you say, creating the value and making the impact with each solution.
Fantastic. Well, on that note, we're right on time. So I thank you both to John and Matthew. We appreciate it. Especially Matthew, you get bonus points because it is well after working hours in the UK. I appreciate it. John, thank you again as well.
Yep.
I hope this was valuable to everybody. I hope audience you enjoyed. For those tuning in on the recording, I hope this is informative after the fact. And thank you to HQ for doing all the logistics behind. The next webinar, I have it up on my left, will be May 13th. You'll see some communications going out soon. It'll be on composting and setting up robust compost and food waste programs in your municipalities, because that's really the next big bastion of we used to throw recyclables away and now we take care of it, but we've kind of forgotten about food, and that's coming like a huge craze. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. And with that, consider this webinar finished. Thank you very much to our panelists.
Thank you for hosting,
Of course, happy to
moderating.
do it.